2023. And yes, Victoria is recording it. So today's topic is going to be a fundraising seminar. And the reason why we decided to start with this is we learned about Yuri's campaign to fundraise for Come Back Alive. And we figured out that it would be useful for some students that I talked to who couldn't make today to have this discussion with student leaders. What worked, what hasn't worked, what would they recommend the new generation of students to do to fundraise effectively, or how to navigate the rules at universities. So for this meeting, we'll record it, but also we will take all the quotes and whatever the student leaders and alumni has shared with us, and then we'll make it into more usable guides, and we'll share that with our community. Hopefully it will last for a while too. So today's agenda, we will talk about Yuri's campaign. He'll introduce it to everyone, and maybe someone will find it interesting, will want to join or help him out. Then we will have a discussion about fundraising in college with our alumni and student leaders, and then we'll open the floor for questions and answers. So I hope Victoria will share a little bit about SUSTA in case someone doesn't know what SUSTA is. So Victoria, floor is yours.
Certainly. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining tonight. It's good to see a couple of new faces and old faces as well. Just to briefly introduce me, my name is Victoria Lipka. I go to Northeastern University, and I'm currently serving as SUSTA's president for this upcoming school year. Artem is the advocacy chair, and Rostislav, who's with Artem right now, he is our vice president of the Northern region. As for SUSTA today, it stands to represent the interest of Ukrainian students. And we do this providing a community to share ideas as well as resources. And one other thing I want to note is that SUSTA will be holding different meetings on different topics, typically on the last Sunday of every month at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Anything I should add of them?
I think that was pretty great, and most people already know what SUSTA is, so that was a great recap. And for the point, the picture is from the intercollegiate vigil that we had, and it's from Illinois College. So there was a great time that when we tried to have this coordinated event and sharing resources for clubs to reuse. All right, so we'll move on to Rostik.
All right. Please join SUSTA, and we have Instagram, we have Telegram. You can see what the activities are and what activities we are involved in, or the ones that we're trying to highlight of other people. And you can propose your project idea, and we can collaborate on that and see what resources we can share and how to do it well. And if you had a successful campaign or you're planning to do one, also please share, because maybe we can help with experience or with guidance. And for the last one, we are also looking for the spots in the executive board for a region. If you know people from other clubs in your city who are also involved with Ukrainian clubs in their universities, or you would like to represent a specific region, please tell us, and you will be part of our team.
Yeah, and we'll also share the slide deck, so all these links will be clickable. So all the resources are here for you. All right, so Yuri, now the floor is yours. Please introduce your campaign and tell how people can get involved with your project as well.
Hello, I'm Yuri. I'm Vice President of Ukraine House Deal. A little bit about us. We fundraised for the whole last year, first for Poverny Живем, later for Razum. Now we go back to fundraising again for Poverny Живем. What we want to raise money for is communication equipment for air defense units, which is super vital to basically shut down rockets and drones and prevent civilian deaths. And Poverny Живем is working with us on this campaign. They verified our fundraisers. We plan to partner with other universities. We already have 6 on board. We're always welcome to partner with more people. We plan basically to donate to fundraise for the whole semester. So whenever it works for you, feel welcome to join. We at Yale are always ready to provide our resources, be it design, any ideas, I don't know, when more or whatever you need. And yeah, here are my contact info. Please reach out if you have any questions. And Poverny Javan, for those who don't know, is probably the most effective charity, military charity in Ukraine. And this is like probably the most impactful project. And this is a project that should be easily sellable to students on campuses because, of course, everybody wants to save lives, and air defense system is something people understand, something people want to support. So yeah, we would be happy to have more people with us. Let me know if you have any questions right now or later. Feel free to reach out.
Yeah, thank you, Yuri. You mentioned last time that you have a few colleges joining you already, right?
We have like 6 colleges so far.
Oh.
So yeah, we hope to get more on board, but yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah,
it's
well,
a
thanks
good
for
place
doing
to start.
that. Yeah. We'll also try to repost it later, so I'll ask you to send photos over. All right, so thank you, Yuri, and we'll move to our actual discussion on how to organize fundraisers, experience from other colleges. So I'm putting Northeastern on the spot, so please, Northeastern folks, you have about 3 to 4 minutes. I just want you guys to share like what you guys did, maybe put in a better timeline, like since February 2022 onwards. Maybe mention some challenges you guys have, but don't go into too specifics because we want to give a broader picture of what you guys did, what kind of formats, what kind of ideas. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm gonna send a link in the chat in case I don't get to anything. This has a lot of good stuff on it. But basically, we started with fundraising for Erasm because, well, Erasm's an established charity, and it's very non-controversial, right? A lot of people are uninformed about the war. A lot of people don't care. So if you say that you're fundraising for military aid, people might not donate. But if you say that this is humanitarian aid, you say this is medical aid, this is helping refugees, that is very, very uncontroversial. It makes it a lot simpler for us. We don't have to explain where it's going. We can just say very simply, this is humanitarian aid, and it works great. So we started with that. The right-hand picture was one of the first days we did this. We just basically stood in a busy part of campus and I don't want to say harassed people, but just made it clear that we are fundraising for a good cause. This is how you can donate. You can Venmo us. You can give us cash. You can donate through the official school donation portal. And later on the left-hand side, we did get decently more organized. College students are very attracted to small free things. So we had a bunch of giveaways that they could take. Big thing we did was stickers. We say, you know, we have a recommended donation for a sticker, and a lot of people buy them, stick it on a water bottle, stick it on a laptop. We also had flags, we had pins, we had some small origami flowers. Really, the point is just have anything, because if they come away with something physical, it makes them feel better about donating. It's a small thing, but it helps. But that was largely it. Our biggest challenge was, our 2 biggest challenges, I think, were students who didn't know about the war and didn't care. And then later on, people just got tired of it. So the issue was, both with the Ukrainian club, we had fewer people showing up and fewer of the random students on campus would donate. Yeah, we just, to work around that, we tried to focus more on anniversaries. So we did, for example, we did a fundraiser of the drama theater bombing in Mariupol. And that way you can highlight a specific event to make people care about it, because, you know, they know that there's war going on. You know, even the dumbest kid on campus knows that by now. But if you try to teach them about something specific that happened, it did help us a lot. You know, it draws people in, and then you can explain it, and then some of them want to learn more. So I guess in the last year, we kind of pivoted more towards education than just donations, because we felt that that was a little more useful at the time. Yeah, I think that's largely it.
Well, thank you, Zahar. If you and Terenia can also touch upon, you guys were doing some matching with the university. What was that?
So for the first, so this one in the photo in the right, that was the first day of the war. We went out and we decided that to get people to donate more, that we would match up to a certain point of donations. And that was us, the Yuki Club matching. So there were 4 of us that, I think 4, maybe a bit more, who decided that we would help contribute towards this matching, which is what this thermometer sign is that Nyanya's holding here in the photo. I think that was it for matching, unless there was something
Yeah.
else, Zakara.
No, the school gave us nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Dealing with the school was honestly also a challenge. Once we became an official club and everything, when we had fundraisers, they are like this with every club, but very stringent on how people can donate and give you money. Like Venmo is not acceptable to the school. They wanted cash or they wanted to donate through the school website somehow. But that doesn't really work for students a lot. So we would just kind of under the table offer our Venmo QR code for them to use. And that seemed to be the most effective, but it was a challenge for sure.
Push with cash this year, actually in the Northeast, and this is a little off topic, but if a club wants to accept cash at a fundraiser, they need to pay for a police escort. And obviously we're not going to do that. So just, it's for a good cause, collect it however you can. Don't listen to the school.
That's cool. Yeah, thanks for touching upon that, because I actually maybe will ask you guys later on, like everyone collectively, about Venmo, because we had some questions about Venmo versus taxing, and there's some sort of like theory that if you cross some threshold, you have tax issues. So we'll touch upon that. Thank you guys. And now we move to next university. Oops, wrong slide. All right, our next university is University of Florida. Sasha, the floor is yours.
Thank
Introduce
you.
yourself,
Hi,
okay?
everyone. Yeah, so I'm Sasha. I'm the president of the Ukrainian Student Association at the University of Florida. Just to set some context, our community isn't very large. It's kind of a medium-sized community. I'd say we have around about 20 Ukrainian or Ukrainian American students, and then in terms of like families with children, it's probably like 40 people, extra 40 people. So we're just kind of medium-sized. And we've done a few fundraisers since the beginning of the war. The largest thing that we've run into is compassion fatigue, as everyone else said. As the war continues, it's difficult for people to, kind of care about it, unfortunately, unless they have a personal connection to it. So at the beginning of the war, we did something very similar to what Zahar talked about. We just stood out there and we collected donations. But as time progressed, we tried to find more creative ways to fundraise. So on the photo, you see 3 of our ladies from the community, and we have various Ukrainian goods. This is a farmer's market in Gainesville, the city that we're at. And so sometimes they allow us to have a Ukrainian stand with some handmade items and fundraise in that way. So that's like not completely university related. That's just more of a community activity. And then some of the university students participate in that. On the right, you can see some paskas that we made. This was a fundraiser that we did this past spring. We decided that it's been more than a year of the war and we needed to give people like a tangible item to encourage donating. So we decided on a paska, which kind of is a display of Ukrainian culture. It has a lot of traditions around it. And we baked those and we sold them along with pisankas, which we got hand painted from Ukraine. And that got a lot of orders. I think people are interested in learning more and they feel good when they get something with their donation. So for sure, that was a successful fundraiser. In terms of fundraising techniques, I guess some things I could say is what we do is we brainstorm like who our collaborators can be for a fundraiser. So we think about like all the clubs on campus and even community community members and organizations. So for example, we work with the Polish club, and then also, if you have any local cafes that support humanitarian causes, you could always print some posters and just drive around town to those various locations and ask them if you can put up a poster. And oftentimes they're very willing, and that kind of can get you connected with people who would never hear about what you're doing on campus because maybe they're not like involved in the university community. Another thing that I find important is to have a meaningful cause that you're raising money for. So ideally, if you have someone directly in Ukraine who you can be raising money for, or you have someone who like works for the nonprofit or does transport, just something that has like a personal story attached to it that you could tell whenever people ask like, you know, what am I giving money for? People seem to be much more willing to give money if you have some sort of personal story behind it, or even if you just know the details of where the money is going towards. I think that's for sure important. Another thing is in the winter we had actually an online fundraising campaign, so we didn't have any tangible items that we were selling, but we just did a GoFundMe, and basically we had all our community members like posted on their Facebook, and we got $3,500 just through that. So definitely don't forget about your online network of people, and you know, like a family member reposts it and their friends see it, like you can actually reach a lot of people in that way. And if you're selling tangible items, this is my last point, it's important how you phrase what you're selling. So for example, the way we do it is we don't just sell a product as any other like farmers market stand. We make sure to highlight that 100% of the money that you give is a donation, and this is just an item, like a token of thanks that we're giving to you, so that people really feel like they're not just buying something, but they're like making a difference, like they're donating. And for us, we as a club, or sometimes I as an individual, I cover the like cost of whatever we're making, so that we are able to advertise that 100% of the money is going to be donated. But you could also say that 100% of the proceeds is donated, like whatever your math ends up being, but just highlight what percentage of that money is going towards the cause. That's definitely important. People want to know that.
That's actually a good point.
So
Transparency during
yeah.
fundraising is really important. So thanks for bringing it up.
So I think that's about it for our university.
Cool. Yeah, we'll continue the discussion with like actual topics later. So thank you, Sasha. So now it's Stanford. Purnima, floor is yours.
Hi. Do you mind if I share screen?
Please. Yeah, I think you can share over me.
Perfect.
Stop
I
now.
will do that. I just don't want to come off as
Yeah.
rude. Okay,
Cool.
perfect. I'm honestly just going to read off the website because I think it covers most of our big fundraising efforts well. I'll preface with just a disclaimer that most of this work was done at a time when the war was more actively on people's minds. But I think broadly, some of the more interesting work that we've done is we raised about $100,000 for humanitarian aid, and we actually had one particular volunteer actually at Stanford who went to Ukraine and was overseeing all of the delivery and things like that. We worked with Nova Ukraine, and most of that stuff was delivered to Kryvyi Rih. I think that was the picture you had in your sorry, where is it? Yeah, in your slides was the Run for Ukraine initiative, which was a little later than that. This was June to August last year, where we tried to engage with the community, have them join us for a run, donate, and then the ask was actually very small. We didn't ask them to run at the same time or on the same day. We gave them a whole large date range. We asked people to just post about it. But even by then, I think there was fatigue in the empathy people had and how much people were willing to donate and spend their time. One of the offshoots from the Ukrainian Students Association at Stanford is Telehelp Ukraine, which is where we essentially established an organization to provide humanitarian aid in the form of telemedicine service to Ukrainians who had been affected by the war. So Ukrainians based in Ukraine or Poland could solicit our support. And we had a lot of very cool people join the team and very cool providers. We have a lot of volunteers who still work with us now to provide service. We've, I think, had around 1,600 appointments in the last year and a half or so. And we're planning on improving those numbers in the future. So I think this is telemedicine, because it's almost entirely volunteer run, has been a spot which has been well maintained because it's more of people volunteering their time and not their money. And all of these people are inherently very motivated to help Ukraine. The pockets are getting shallower every single day, and I feel like people are not too generous with their money anymore. And the oh yeah, I should clarify, telehealth Ukraine appointments are free. Thank you, Melissa. The fundraising done by Telehealth Ukraine initially was crowd raising, and that did not prove too effective. And because of the nature of the organization, they were able to apply to more grants and things like that. But for the $100,000 that was raised for the humanitarian aid, I want to clarify. I think I would say most of that money raised by USAS was actually raised over the internet, using social media. It was much less of a like selling something and getting money that way. We in fact did not use Venmo at all. We raised this money through Nova Ukraine because obviously, as a student organization, handling large sums of money is a huge financial risk for the university. So we didn't even bother asking Stanford. We were like, they're going to say no. They're not very nice. And so we just worked with a partner organization to where they handle the money, but we raised that money. And so that $100,000 was mostly a social media campaign where like the minimizing the number of clicks to that donation page was the biggest key to make this happen. So including the link in Instagram stories, including the link in our social media profile, the link in bio was basically this for a very long time. And it took us a few months to raise that amount, but that was a very concerted social media effort. I would say the Run for Ukraine was also primarily done over the internet. And I think my current mentality towards fundraising is that there's different scales of impact that you can have. And I feel like student organizations, because of the ability to host events in person, can raise, I would say, thousands to tens of thousands of dollars really well. If you're looking for, something like $50,000, probably targeting your efforts to convince one rich person to just donate that money is probably a better shot. And if you want more than $100,000, then government grants is probably the way to go, or like nonprofit grants and things like that. Or there's like, if you have a tech nonprofit, then there's like often a lot of startups that will like fund you and things like that. So worth looking into. But I would say those are the regimes of fundraising that both Telehealth Ukraine and Ukrainian Students Association in Stanford are considering.
Purnima, can you also elaborate who was the majority of like volunteers and student leaders or whoever engaged with your club? And who were the audience? Was it only limited to Stanford, or was it like broader?
That's a great question. So I'll target each type of fundraising differently. For the 100,000 humanitarian aid one, that was every single, you can see kind of the picture here on the screen of the Ukrainians at USAS. So that was basically how many people were actively involved in the organization. At that point, it was quite large, but now it's dwindled down for sure. The 100,000 was each of these people actively sharing in their stories and soliciting their friends and family and their circles to get that money. So that was tapping the Ukrainian community, any allied community at Stanford, like maybe the Belarusians and Russians and stuff like that, and then having each of them tap their private network. There were a lot of MBA students in the Ukrainian Students Association at that point, and so they definitely helped us pull in a decent chunk of money. Of that 100,000, I would say there were two major $10,000, $15,000 donations that came in from richer people that we were able to convince. For Run for Ukraine, our audience was the more athletic community at Stanford. When we tried to go nationwide, we did reach out to, I think, 5 to 10 running clubs in every state. and the response from that was very minimal. So we sent out these emails, we solicited them quite strongly, I would say, in my opinion, but we did not get much response from that. So Run for Ukraine was mostly the Stanford community and again, our friends and family. For Telehelp Ukraine, we're still fundraising for that. I think since it's an ongoing project, we always need, I think the functioning cost is something like $50,000 a year to maintain what we're doing right now. And so to fundraise for that, we're looking at a combination of crowd fundraising because humanitarian aid is not as controversial as military aid. It's a little bit easier to get people to donate to that if they're inclined to do so, which is already a pretty high barrier. And the large sum, 50,000, we're not going to reach it just by asking the people we know. And so we definitely need to go beyond that and ask for either rich individuals that we know or try to network and find those rich individuals, or look at like we're considering maybe reaching out to local Rotary clubs and things like that to maybe engage with them. And also grants would be a good way to get that kind of larger sum.
That is incredible. Thank you so much for like introducing all of that. And definitely bigger colleges, especially the ones with business schools, have ability to do cooler stuff. So I'm just saying, so other colleges then try to overkill to get 100,000. Every college has its own like advantages. So, but that's awesome. And I will talk a little bit about Tufts. So that's my beloved college. We are small on the undergrad campus. We have like about 6,000 people. That's including PhDs, and then combined together, we have about 10,000 students. On the picture here is Yulasha, one of our Ukrainian American members, who's really incredible. She made bracelets that says "fuck you, Putin," and she was selling it. But at Tufts, we were having a lot of support from non-Ukrainian members, and specifically because we only had like 3 or 4 students one at a time, because like some masters, they were here and there. And first, I was actually approached by American students because I was in the Slavic club, and they encouraged me to do a protest. And I was like, you know, we're all Ukrainians being stressed at this point, so we were not really in the mind of doing anything much. But we ended up starting with a protest, on a rally on campus. So through the story of the rally, I want to highlight that it was very important to cooperate with the university, following the rules. And the best way to do it is you actually reach out to them and you ask how to do it through a phone call, because email takes ages. And I just really want to really highlight that since college students are doing on campuses, you can break some rules, but you also need to know the rules so you know what to break. And we were also following, like, for instance, for the rally, we need to report to the police, tell them where the rally is going to happen, what are the locations. They blocked the road for us, which is amazing. The process was expedited because it was, you know, a good cause, whatever. For fundraising, we were actually doing both ways, legal and illegal, according to university. We were still using Venmo, PayPal, Zelle. For others, we were encouraging people to donate directly to RASM, the nonprofit of our choice at the time. And then we were also sharing with the staff of the university. We were including the how to match donations guide. That's pretty hard to quantify because we didn't really could reach out to RASM, like have any professor reach out. We don't know about it because the scale was smaller. We also like cold flyers, like send like a spam flyers in person to professors, and some of them actually donated to us because they're too busy. We organized one concert at the university. That one took about 3 weeks to prepare, and we did not spend out of pocket anything because all the costs were covered by different university departments. So for venue, we asked Russian department to sponsor our venue. So we got this biggest concert hall in the university. For food, we asked the chaplaincy. So the chaplaincy ordered food for our singers. And for performers, we had like actual opera singers, soprano singers, to come for free because they wanted to do this. And we had student groups to perform for free as well. We had Ukrainian students and Georgian students from Berkeley Musical School to join us as well. So it was also other colleges helping us to do this. So our university spent $900 and we raised $1,800. So it was a 100% margin, but we also didn't spend out of pocket. We kind of laundered the money from the university to it. So that was one event. And then we also did basic bake sales, sticker sales, bracelet sales, just like Sasha was saying. And social media did not go as well for us because it was probably a small number of us, and we also were not that like outgoing and networking well enough. Something to improve upon. We wanted to tackle the alumni network. That did not work out because we didn't have the access, and also we were not that well connected. Something to try again. And the last thing I want to highlight is connecting with other clubs. And someone already mentioned working with Belarusians or Polish communities. At Tufts, we were fundraising together with Myanmar students because at the same time they had this civil war going on. So we organized one event that we split the bake sale profits, but because of that, we didn't have to like overkill ourselves to organize our own bake sale. And that was mainly it. We didn't really have that many events going on. And we also, of the nature of small university, we tried to go and help out other colleges as well, like Berkeley and Northeastern. So I'll end here for Tufts, and we will go on to Yale. So Yuri, the floor is yours again.
Hello. I mean, we organized different things. Oh, perfect. Thank you. We organized different things last year for these two fundraisers that are here. Mostly it was just like physical soliciting. So we would sell like varaniki, we would sell Ukrainian candies, bracelets, stickers, whatever. We had just like a lot of people bring different things they had and we sold them. But also what worked especially well for us last year is we organized Fred Party, which took us zero efforts because Fred organized everything by themselves. They charged for entry and it was like 2K with zero efforts. We are doing it again this semester, and we will be doing it again every single semester, maybe a couple of times per semester, because why not? Zero efforts, a lot of money. What else? I mean, yeah, those are basic things besides everything you guys mentioned. Yeah, again, we work with different clubs. We this semester will be working with our dining club, who serves like fancy meals for money. We also like work with Yale Democrats, who fundraise for us. And we are looking for new ways to fundraise as well. So what we will try to do this semester, I'm not sure how well it will actually work out, but we'll try, is like we will find around 10 non-Ukrainians at Yale who have their own social networks and who can fundraise for us like $200 or $300 just by reaching out to people they know, by posting things to their story and stuff like that. And if it will work out, it'll bring us like 2-3K with also low efforts because we all have other people doing work for us. Again, don't know how well that will work, but I assume we can find passionate people who will care enough to try to fundraise for us. Yeah, those are main things.
Yuri, what is the income or profit you guys make from the frat parties? How much do you get?
Last year we got like 2.5K. And that's like a very normal margin for all charity parties.
Wow. But like one party, or are you talking like
one party? We had only one.
Wow.
One party and just party. Yeah.
Yeah, and something we haven't really touched upon yet, but not directly fundraising, but raising awareness of on university campuses. I know you guys at Yale also had like some non-fundraising events, right? Like with
Oh yeah, we do them from time to time. So we do like film screenings. We had like a very big event with Snyder and a guy from Cave administration for 24th actually. And Snyder, we have Snyder, so that's good. He brings always a lot of attention. But this semester we will be like much more active in organizing this kind of events. We have first one coming in next Friday. It's like former finance minister of Ukraine is coming. And it's good to bring high profile speakers because they always bring a lot of attention and they will talk about why it is important to support Ukraine. So that's what we'll be doing also a lot this semester.
Yeah, that is awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And at Tufts, we also did a few events, like we had some high profile people visiting. Of course, we pulled them in, asked them to spend 1 extra hour and talk to students. Yeah, so that's definitely a way to raise awareness to keep Ukraine relevant as well. And I don't remember if anyone touched, but some clubs can also reach out to you to ask to do something, which probably not going to happen anymore because Ukraine is not a big topic. But in reverse, we used to ask clubs to organize something for us. Like we ask International Relation Club, can you guys like ask your members to spread the word about donating? And some people actually donated for us. We had some athletic groups, especially the tennis group, because they used to have a Ukrainian coach and they decided to do fundraising for Ukraine as well. So sometimes you can indirectly prompt student groups to fundraise. But since the topic is not hot anymore, the best way is to make it easy for them to help you is by sending a specific proposal, specific suggestion. Don't just like vaguely say, can you guys do something, but actually propose something for people. So that worked for us at Tufts, but we haven't done it this year yet. We'll try. Well, I also wanted to share a little bit broader topic, which is in Greater Boston area, we have a ton of colleges, and we have colleges, we have like 20, 30 Ukrainian students, but we also have colleges like 2 or 3 of them. So sometimes we actually travel to like different events and help each other. One day we went to Berkeley Musical College to help them with organizing the concert. And then some of them then went back to Tufts and helped us at Tufts. We also went to Northeastern event, and then we went to MIT. So also creating crowd, because when you guys doing event on small campuses, there is no crowd and just like not that cool from afar. But when we had a ton of students coming over from other colleges surrounding us, people were curious and they started walking up, and more people were able to share stories too. So that worked for us. Community events and fundraisers also was a way we indirectly helped to fundraise. We had this Jewish community in Boston. They had an event and Ukrainian students pulled up to help them. And indirectly, we helped to fundraise some money. And then we also were like students at a rally, and adults ask us like, can you guys control the crowd? So we were just students running around, making sure the crowd just follows the right way. It was the way that we would engage with the community nearby. And one day we were focused on fundraising for one nonprofit only because this nonprofit needed money urgently. So multiple colleges of us, which includes MIT, Suffolk, Tufts, and Berkeley, we were fundraising for one nonprofit, which is Maria. It's an MIT-based nonprofit. So we didn't do it all the time, but just once because they needed the money. And of course, we also had casual hangouts just to get to know each other, de-stress, and keep everyone up to do some stuff. So this just, if you guys do happen to have colleges around or such communities, make sure to get in touch because it does help. So we'll open the floor for Q&A. So the people in the public, if you guys have questions, or even alumni and student leaders, if you guys have any other questions to each other, please send in the chat or unmute yourself. But first, I'll ask one question just to initiate the discussion, which is, how did you guys and your community actually manage balancing schoolwork and all these fundraising activities, mental health, and life?
I can go a bit. I see Yuri's message in the chat of what is mental health, and I second that. I think it was easier for me to do because I graduated last spring in 2020. So I was burnt out, but it was only for a few months. And then I had a break from the student life and was just had time off. But yeah, I personally don't think I had a very good balance because it's definitely something that's very difficult to find.
Yeah, for sure, Tarenya. I second that, and it was the same for me. I would say for the first more than half a year, it was really difficult to find any sort of balance. I think my academics really took like second stage to the war, and we really just tried to push our fundraisers and our campaigns. It was almost like a fear that people were going to like give up on Ukraine and just forget about it, and I don't know, however many weeks or months. But I realized as my mental health did struggle that you have to put up certain boundaries for yourself. For me, one of those is limiting the amount of news that I like intake and the sources of news. So just choosing like I'll be reading or watching news from like X sources, I don't know, X amount of times a day or just in the morning and evening rather than just checking all the time. And that way you feel that you're up to date, but to a reasonable extent. But that's something that I do personally.
I think that's definitely very important. I didn't figure that out in school just yet, but more recently, now that I've been working, is one thing that was actually huge for me is I stopped following a lot of news sources on Instagram. So now I keep Instagram as just personal, fun, whatever, non-serious social things. And then I'll like occasionally go onto the pages that have the information, but I get my news elsewhere. Like I'll go to Telegram channels or I'll go to websites or email like weekly newsletters or podcasts or things like that for news. And that's helped me a lot to just sort of separate things out so that my personal life and social things are separate from news and serious things. Because it was a lot to be scrolling and seeing like someone's birthday party, that these are the attacks that happened today. Something else fun, something horrible. Like that really
Yeah.
find a balance later on.
Yeah, it's like a dual reality that you live in. Like for me, the first few months were just complete dissociation of like being here in the US in Florida where the weather is great in the spring, where everyone is like happy, and then knowing that your family is in danger, that your family hasn't written to you in a day, and yeah, that everywhere is being bombed. Definitely you have to separate your life, and you have to like go and engage with like your life here and now for a bit, and then engage with the Ukrainian community, at least for me, to keep a balance and to be able to perform for the Ukrainian community the way that you would like to.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So I also wanted to ask if anyone in the audience or SUSTA members want to chime in. That's helpful too. I will speak for myself, which was finding the Ukrainian community was helpful. Because originally we didn't know that there were Ukrainians on campus. And if we did find, it was like 2 or 3 of us. So we were like, okay, crap, let's go to other college, find a better community, like get them adopt us. And then we also began delegating work. So not only Ukrainians doing everything, but trying to get other students from other ethnicities and Americans who were wanting to help. But we were just so stressed. We were just like rats running around. So we were not talking to anyone to delegate work. So when you actually calm down and you like start planning things out, that's when you can get more people involved and ask them to help you. And I actually wanted to ask, like, for instance, for Nima, like you guys have this huge community. Did you guys did anything for just keep everyone up, or was everyone for themselves over there?
It's very, very difficult to say this. I was typing something in the chat, but I think I'll just say it out loud. A lot of the people in USF are Ukrainians. There are some non-Ukrainian allies, including me. But the community was very large in the start and very quickly started to dwindle. And I think that might be something all of you are experiencing, where it's bad enough that Ukrainians are going through what they're going through. I think there was maybe some level of perceived or even unintentional judgment of how many hours people were able to put into their volunteering. And although I really genuinely believe that all Ukrainians in USAS were non-judgmental, I think it's a little bit of projection where the guilt that the person feels like, oh my God, how could I prioritize this over that? And that guilt, I think a lot of them were projecting it onto others and assuming that they were mad at them or something like that. So it was very hard to go past it. What we tried to do was make the meetings fun. In like while we do go over all of the agenda, also like making sure we have borscht or something fun to eat or some cool drinks. Like there's some Ukrainian, well not Ukrainian, but you know, just Eastern European stores nearby. So we buy like Russian chocolate or something like that and share it around. So there's a little bit of like bringing in the culture and reminding people that we're talking about Ukraine primarily in a very unfortunate sense, but the root of the culture is of something worth celebrating, something very fun and beautiful. But on a personal level, I think I would just recommend everyone get a therapist. Let's start there. I think everyone, not just Ukrainians, everyone in general in life should have a therapist because we're way too biased to see what's happening. I hope your universities have some level of support that they're able to give you during this time. Stanford has a thing where for every life event, they'll give you 10 free psychological and like counseling kind of sessions with a therapist. And that's definitely worth looking into if your university has that, and it's worth sharing with the Ukrainian community in your area as well. It's not easy, I will say. I think for better or worse, I think you Ukrainians are very hard on yourselves and are over performers and used to that, and it's great, but it's important to be kind to yourselves. And I can only say that as an outsider who has seen many Ukrainians go through that. Yeah, it's very difficult. When you asked this question, I was like, oh my God, there's no good answer. Get a therapist, but I don't know what else. Yeah.
That is actually a very good point. So thank you so much for bringing it up. Everyone get a therapist. Does telehealth offer therapists for US-based students?
Unfortunately, the way the service works, we have only jurisdiction to help Ukrainians based in Poland or Ukraine. So unfortunately, we are not able to help Ukrainians that are already in the US.
That's fair.
However, I'm happy to recommend, like, it's not going to be free, but hopefully with your insurance, it should be like a $25, $20 copay, something like that, depending on how good your insurance is. I'm happy to recommend some websites where I've seen therapists, and I know other people have found good therapists as well for like even Zoom sessions, things like that.
Yeah, and I will also say that for me, it took a while to find one, and I settled with a Ukrainian one recently, very recently. Yeah. Does anyone has any questions to each other? Because I prepared a ton of questions, so I can keep going until the time is up. So if anyone thinks of any question, unmute yourself or send in a chat. I'll give 1 minute. All right, I have a question here. So what was up with especially for those who were using like less formal ways to fundraise money, like PayPal, Zelle, Venmo? Did you guys have any issues with taxing? How you guys were managing free accounts and non-free accounts? Like, can you guys talk more a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can talk about Venmo. Venmo is not a great thing for fundraising because if you have a business account, you can't transfer it. So right now, like the account that our club was using is still owned by our president who graduated 2 years ago. That being said, it's very convenient, and at least at Northeastern, all the students are used to using it for any fundraiser or club event. So it's kind of a necessity for us. Tax-wise, Venmo will report any transactions you have over $600, but as long as you can prove that these were charitable donations, so as long as you have receipts to Razom or Fundraising or whatever you donated to, you're fine. Yeah, there's no issue with somebody giving you money and then you donating it, as long as you're not trying to claim it as your personal donation. So tax-wise, it's fine. Our two main concerns were the school obviously doesn't want us using it. And the other thing is just logistics. How do you pass the Venmo account down? And that's generally it.
I mean, what we did is just like we didn't have one Venmo account just for the period of donation of fundraising. One person from our club would rename their account to like Ukraine House at Yale, change their photo, and we would use it for a period of time. Somebody else then would go on and change their Venmo. We switch from time to time from one Venmo to another, just so like one account doesn't accumulate too many donations, just in case. But I also don't think there should be no tax concerns.
Yeah, we do something pretty similar at University of Florida. We just use a personal account. We found that, yeah, just putting everything through personal accounts for us works because I think since the beginning of the war, we've only gone a little bit over like $10,000 altogether. It's not as massive as like say Stanford. So we just do it through the personal accounts. We always report to our community, and I think like there's a lot of trust and it ends up working, and we haven't run into tax issues so far. And our university, I was surprised that you guys said some of your universities don't allow Venmo. Ours, for example, does allow it, like for fundraising on campus, just as long as you're not like too flashy about it.
I want to add that at Tufts, or technically we have to register through the student union to get an access to a fundraising device. And through this device, people would use Apple Pay or credit card. And it's only one device for the university. So there's a whole queue of clubs wanting to use it. And we were like, screw it, we'll use Venmo. For a large event like a concert, you couldn't really do Venmo anymore because you have to sell tickets because it's a formal event, registered, there's police, there's ambulance. So for all of that, we had to go through the university platform called Tufts Tickets. And through that, we asked them to transfer money to the nonprofit of our choice. So the nonprofit had to be a US registered, they have to have a tax code. And because of that, they would be able to transfer the money to the nonprofit. So for instance, in Yuri's case, you guys are working with Come Back Alive. They're not US registered, right? So if you were to do a formal event that university requires you to use like their own whatever tool they need to raise the money, you need to think through this or ask a nonprofit to be a like middleman. And in the past, we also know colleges will use some nonprofits locally as middleman to send money to Ukrainian groups, volunteering teams, whatever. So unfortunately, these logistical issues were present, and I'm sure a lot of these problems still relevant nowadays too. All right, we still have 5 more minutes. If no one else adds extra question. Oh, we have something in the chat. I missed it. Oh, cool. Melissa asked, what techniques you use to make people care enough to donate about your cause? We see so many different donation requests from so many various causes. So people tend to brush everything off.
I think it depends if you're trying to like appeal to someone in person or online. In person, whenever we've done like say stands at the farmers market, I find that personal connection is very important. Like once you get a person talking to you, like make it known what your connection to Ukraine is, like whether you have family there, tell them a personal story, like my uncle was under Russian occupation for 6 months or something like that. And so that they see someone in their community, like they see someone in my Gainesville community who was directly affected by the war in Ukraine, and that makes them want to help. I think that's important. And also tell them the details of what the money is going towards, like how it's happening on the ground.
I can chime in. So while we were fundraising at Tufts, there was this earthquake in Turkey back then. And unfortunately, a lot of people passed away because of that. And it was like a big humanitarian crisis. So Turkish students at my university were also like doing a lot of fundraising. So because of that, we took a pause for a week or two just to not compete. And also because like this issue was actually huge. There were like thousands of people dead. And we took solidarity to stop and also help like reshared their resources as well on our platform, because in the past there were other clubs sharing us, and then we were sharing other causes. We were sharing causes like Myanmar, we were sharing causes in Egypt. There were like always something going on, unfortunately, in this world. And like I mentioned before, we actually joined hand with Myanmar students because they needed the money at the same time as we needed. So instead of competing and having two tables, we just joined into one table and split the income. And we were like, our theme was stop dictators. And we had like a board so people can write bad stuff about dictators because both Myanmar and Russia are dictators, right? So it was like, fuck junta, fuck Putin, etc. It was all like on one table. So that was pretty fun. Anyone else can answer the question to Melissa? Because I think it's actually a good skill to be able to share your cause without coming out as ignorant or too self-centered. I think it's an art to master too. Yeah, I guess it is just Purnima, go ahead, please.
It's actually it's not super related to Melissa's question, but it also kind of is. I strongly believe that students and the communities that we are a part of are capable of raising money. And large amounts of money, in my opinion. And I'm sure we will figure out ways. And like you said, the personal connection and everything will definitely work. I was wondering, I'm working with Telehelp Ukraine pretty strongly right now. That's where most of my Ukraine-related efforts are focused. And as the organization is trying to fundraise, we are actually thinking of the student community as a potential space to help us fundraise. I wanted to ask, as a nonprofit, what would we have to say to you to ask for you to collaborate with us? Like, so for instance, I know a lot of the northeastern states and schools in that area worked with Maria to fundraise for them. And I know a lot of us fundraise for like Nova Ukraine and Razom for Ukraine. How can me as like a representative of that organization, what would be a good way for me to approach not just your schools, but schools in general? And what would you want to hear from us?
I'm not sure if this will really answer your question or help. But I think one thing would be to choose your audience of like which schools or what clubs or organizations you're reaching out to. Because for example, I think it might be tough to ask for help from an organization that already is pretty much dedicated to one charity or is very laser focused on one specific thing, because it'll be hard for them to then branch out and add a second one. And sometimes working on a few things at once makes it harder. So I guess just like being selective with who you're reaching out to for help. Maybe like a club that doesn't have a targeted organization yet, or smaller groups where you can offer them to help with fundraising in return for fundraising for your group, things like that. I don't know. Those are my 2 cents on that.
That makes total sense.
I
Yeah.
have a great question, response to this question. So I hate to say this, but I'll say it. Ask Russians, anti-war Russians, because anti-war Russians do not donate to Ukrainian army. They do not donate to Russian independent Russian volunteering fighting groups. However, there are Russian clubs across this whole country. There are Russian anti-war groups across this country. I can send you a whole list. There is in Sacramento, there is in LA, there is in New York. And they only donate to humanitarian causes. And in many cases, they're donating to Russian-centered humanitarian centers. So if you can get their attention to you instead of to the Russian-based humanitarian groups, that's a win. Yeah. But so you can reach out to me. I have a whole list. In terms of what like Terenia said, that was really great, that most of us have personal connections to nonprofits that we are fundraising for, like for Maria. And in the coming days, I'll try to fundraise for my friend directly in Ukraine, because like he specifically asked for some money to support his group. They need like parts for cars. And because of that, like we already have so many like personal connections that are all needing money around us, that if it was like a Ukrainian group, it will be tough. But there are a lot of like money lying around that would go to Ukraine anyway. And I would say those are the Russians, those are the Americans who want to support Ukraine but would not support militarily. And even though Yuri disagreed, but I think my personal observation was also Americans do not donate to military means. So they would be the best target.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Just really quickly to
I'll go with Sasha, please. Yeah.
to add on to that, I've mentioned this multiple times, but the personal perspective, like I personally understand what telehealth is as a concept, but if you could like maybe do like a story highlight of like a Ukrainian who received like telehealth help through your organization, and I don't know, either like a video or just like a story of like, without too many personal details, how the process works step by step. How do you provide the care? Like what is it exactly that you're providing in your services?
That makes sense. So like if you got an email from me being like, hi, I'm a Ukrainian organization, I was wondering if we could arrange a meeting, and then in that meeting kind of go through like a pitch deck of what we've done, what we want to do, and what the money would be used for.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I'm clearly the step we're not doing is reaching out because we have the rest of that. Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, and we are here also to help telehelp Ukraine. So please get in touch. We know some groups in Boston. We know church groups. Purnima, go to church groups. They will donate to telehelp.
I always forget religious people exist because California. Right. Oh my gosh, big brain.
So, random story. I'll keep it off transcript. But there's a professor at UMass Boston, and he has been doing like fundraising for Ukraine through his church connections in Midwest of the United States. And it's like Republican churches. And he would go there, bring us Ukrainian students, me and then MIT folks, or Berkeley musical school folks, or even UMass Boston Ukrainian girl. He would bring us to Zoom with this church, pitch it, and then they will donate thousands of dollars. So yeah, contact me, contact everyone else. I think we can connect telehealth with people who could actually donate. Yeah. Yeah, well, if no one else has any questions, this is like last moment you guys can throw in. Otherwise, to respect everyone's time, 9:06 is exact time I planned. I promise I plan to end at 9:06. And thank you so much everyone for joining. And I have last slide prepared actually. All right, well, we just say for everyone, get involved with SUSTA. SUSTA is you. The executive board is just here to like make sure the resources are available and they are present. And we remind people that they are here. And yeah, stay in touch with us. And thank you for all the student leaders who join us today. It's great insights. I learned a lot personally. I always wanted to know what you guys are up to. And all these information will do our best job to make it available and digestible for students to share. Hopefully it will last into the future. So yeah, thank you everyone. And let's end the recording here. And have a great week.